Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we really try to dig into those dense reports and pull out the key stuff for you. Today, we're looking into a market that, well, it might surprise you, actually, the global hard coolers industry. Yeah, it sounds simple, but there's some hidden depth and definitely some growth there. So, our mission today, really, is to take this pretty detailed market report we've got and just boil it down to the most interesting bits. Help you get a quick handle on this sector because it's surprisingly dynamic. We're not just talking about keeping your drinks cold here. This is a genuinely thriving global business, and some of the regional differences are quite fascinating.
That's absolutely right. I mean, when you first hear hard coolers, you might just picture a basic ice chest. But the source material we're diving into today, it really shows how it's tied into these broader shifts in global lifestyles. The numbers don't just show sales figures. They really tell a story, about how people are actually choosing to spend their leisure time all around the world. It connects the dots.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture then, because these numbers, they really do grab your attention. Back in 2021, the global market sales revenue for hard coolers was just under $1.4 billion. Fast forward to 2025, that figure jumped to nearly $2 billion. And the projections, they're even more striking. We're talking about potentially hitting a massive $4.15 billion by 2033. That works out to a compound annual growth rate, the CAG, of 9.7%.
Wow, a key GR of almost 10%.
Mm.
For a product like this, that's incredibly robust. It means the market value is basically set to more than double in, less than 8 years from now. And what's really striking as you dig into the report is that this strong, consistent growth, it isn't just in one or two places. It seems to be happening across nearly all regions, which, immediately makes you think, okay, what are the common drivers? What's creating this demand pretty much everywhere?
Good question. So let's unpack those regions then and see where these coolers are really making an impact. Starting with North America. Okay, so this region brought in revenues of over $330 million back in 2021, and it's projected to hit nearly $970 million by 2033. That's showing a solid CAGR there of just over 9.3%. And drilling down into North America, well, no big surprise, the U.S. is the main player there, the powerhouse. It started around $236 million in 2021, and that's projected to grow to nearly $660 million by 2033. But here's something interesting. Canada actually shows an even stronger growth rate, a CAGR over 10%. It's looking to triple its 2021 revenue from about $70 million up to over $230 million by 2033. Mexico's market is smaller, sure, but it's also showing steady growth, around 8% CAGR.
Yeah, that higher Canadian growth rate is quite telling, isn't it? I mean, the U.S. market is huge, it's established. But Canada's faster pace, it could really be linked to that deep-seated outdoor culture, right? Maybe more people getting into remote camping, fishing, cottage life, things where, frankly, a really good durable cooler isn't just nice to have, it's essential. It kind of points to a specific type of leisure investment. Okay, so let's hop over the Atlantic now to Europe. And similar story there, really. Impressive, consistent expansion, growing from over $276 million in 2021. Projected to hit more than $817 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of around 9.5%. What's quite significant here is how widespread it is. Across all sorts of different economies, it suggests a pretty broad European trend towards, more outdoor recreation. You see strong players like Germany, expected to reach nearly $195 million by 2033. The UK as well, set to go over $140 million. These are places with, strong traditions of camping, caravanning, weekend trips. But what really caught my eye was a market like Luxembourg, tiny market, right?
But it shows one of the highest growth rates in all of Europe, almost 11.7% CAGR. That could point to maybe an emerging luxury angle, or specific events driving demand in smaller, wealthier markets, perhaps. It just shows how diverse the reasons can be, even within one continent.
Absolutely. That Luxembourg number is fascinating. And okay, if we shift our focus now to Asia Pacific, this is where the market just, well, it explodes. It's the dominant region, no question. Revenues are projected to basically shoot up from just over $500 million in 2021 to a huge $1.6 billion by 2033. And this region also has the highest overall CCR, over 10.1%. The scale and the speed of growth here are really something else. China, as you'd expect, leads the way, heading towards over $500 million in revenue by 2033. But look at India, really remarkable growth there, a KGR close to 11%, set to reach over $230 million by 2033. And another one that stands out globally, Taiwan, one of the highest growth rates anywhere, nearly 11.4% CGR. South Korea, Australia, Singapore, also posting very strong numbers.
Yeah, the Asia-Pacific figures, they really underline how varied the drivers are. In places like China and India, you're probably seeing the impact of that rapidly growing middle class, right? More disposable income, more interest in new kinds of leisure, travel, maybe even things like glamping or more organized outdoor events taking off. Then for those smaller high-growth markets like Taiwan, could be intense interest in specific outdoor activities,
Hmm.
or maybe even a strong social media influence promoting those outdoor lifestyles. Okay, turning our attention south to South America. What we see there is steady, significant momentum. It's not quite the explosion of Asia Pacific, but solid growth. The market's projected to grow from just over $112 million in 2021, point two, over $314 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of about 9%. And if you connect that back to the bigger picture, well, it definitely suggests a growing middle class investing more in leisure, activities both locally and maybe even regional tourism. Brazil's the leader there, no doubt, growing towards over $120 million by 2033. But Colombia is showing really strong acceleration, CAGR over 9.6%. Argentina is also a key market. So this consistent growth across the major economies there, it just reinforces that idea, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Outdoor leisures, whether it's beach trips, barbecues, local outings, it's becoming a bigger part of how households spend their money.
Right. And then there's the Middle East, another region showing a really significant change. The hard cooler market there is set to rise from under $100 million in 2021. Point CO over $326 million by 2033. That's an impressive CAGR, nearly 10.3%. This is definitely a region where you can see lifestyle shifts happening quite visibly. Saudi Arabia is leading the pack in the Middle East, poised to reach over $108 million by 2033. And the UAE shows exceptional growth, CAGR almost 11%. Heading for over $55 million. Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, also strong contributors. I mean, when you think about the climate there, plus all the investment in tourism and entertainment, it makes sense that durable cooling solutions would be in really high demand.
It really does. It's a striking example of how, infrastructure development and even government initiatives can directly boost consumer markets. You've got new resorts, outdoor attractions, a big push on things like desert safaris, beach activities. So the need for good, sturdy coolers just becomes a natural part of that lifestyle. It does raise an interesting question, though. How much of that is local demand versus tourism? Probably a mix of both, I imagine. And finally, let's touch on Africa. Now, it's starting from a lower base, for sure, but it still shows a steady upward path, expanding from nearly $44 million in 2021. Bordeaux projected over $115 million by 2033. That's a CGR of about 8.17%. Nigeria and South Africa are the main engines here. Algeria is projected to reach over $41 million, South Africa over $55 million by 2033. And even though these markets are, let's say, still developing in this specific product segment, that consistent growth points to things like increasing urbanization, maybe a growing youth demographic, and perhaps the beginnings of a stronger outdoor and travel culture taking hold. Definitely a region to keep an eye on in the future.
Okay, so pulling all this together, what's the big takeaway? The source material seems pretty clear on this. That's really impressive global growth in hard coolers. It's mainly driven by a few key things that are all kind of linked. We're seeing rising demand globally for outdoor activities, right? Camping, fishing, hiking, tailgating, you name it. That's combined with more tourism happening worldwide.
And just general improvements in lifestyles in many places, allowing people to spend more on leisure.
Exactly. The core insight, I think, is that this market isn't just about selling boxes to keep things cold. It's a direct, measurable reflection of how global lifestyles are changing, especially that growing embrace of outdoor activities, of leisure time, and how that translates into, well, really robust and consistent economic growth, even in what might seem like a niche sector. It really shows how lots of small, individual purchases, when you add them all up globally, they reveal these powerful, quantifiable trends driven by culture and economic development. It really does. So it makes you think, what does this global surge in hard coolers tell you about spending priorities, about leisure trends in different corners of the world? It's quite something, isn't it? It makes you wonder what other everyday items are out there quietly reflecting these huge global economic and social shifts. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the surprisingly robust world of global hard coolers. We hope you came away not just with the numbers, but maybe with a new perspective, too, on how even simple items can hold some pretty profound insights about our world.